All-Star Weekend is done. Indy's moment was awesome. The Pacers showed out and did some stuff, and Tyrese Haliburton, many say, was robbed of MVP in the All-Star game. Boy, do we have a lot to talk about on today's Locked On Pacers podcast.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, y'all? Happy Monday, and welcome into another edition of the Locked On Pacers podcast, where we, of course, talk about the Indiana Pacers. As always, my name's Tony East. I cover the team for Forbes and SI, and today, diving in to all things All-Star Weekend. I've been downtown for, I think, every waking hour of the last 4 days for All-Star Weekend. It was an absolute blast to see everything, to watch the Pacers do their thing, to be involved in the city, to just soak it in. My first All-Star Weekend, and I really enjoyed it. It seems like a lot of people did. I met a lot of listeners. I didn't write down all of your names. I apologize. Jerry, Zach, the last two that I remember asking for your name. It was great to meet so many people. And boy, do we have a lot to talk about concerning the Pacers in All-Star Weekend. The All-Star game wrapped up about 6 hours ago now. We have stuff to talk about with Tyrese Haliburton and how he did in that game, and MVP did not win. Many think he should. And the quality of the game in general, a big topic on the internet tonight I want to talk about, plus a lot of other Pacers things. They win the next up game. They win some of the challenges Saturday night. Bennedict Mathurin, a Rising Stars winner. Lots of Pacers representation in the events this weekend. We start with the hot thing, the All-Star game itself in Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Tyrese Haliburton, a starter. Epic introduction from PA man Troy Pepper, one of the best people in all of Pacer basketball land. Such a nice dude, and crushed it with the player introductions in front of a home crowd, lots of cheers, MVP chants in an all-star game for Tyrese Haliburton. It was very cool to see it all come together like that for him. And you know, he had this self-described thing that I thought was really funny, calling himself prom king to describe his weekend that he's had with All-Star, where he has a million events. And the reason he has a million events is because he's very popular in Indy, and the All-Stars here, he's the face of the event, right? This comes with more to it, and he handled it all really well. But the All-Star game is everything. You know, like all those events are incredibly important, extremely valuable to the city, extremely valuable to the fan base of both the NBA and the Pacers. The All-Star game, I was trying to type a list of celebrities that were there for an article during the game, and it got so long, I can't read it on the screen. I mean, it was nuts. And like the game opens and Reggie Miller, Oscar Robertson, and Larry Bird are addressing the crowd, and Babyface is playing the national anthem on his guitar. Like it's a much bigger deal. So to cap off a weekend, Haliburton still had work to do. And it took him about 5 minutes to absolutely put on a show. He made 5 threes in a row in the first quarter. He said after the game that he was going to keep shooting till he missed. I don't remember ever seeing this. Granted, I don't remember a lot of granular details about All-Star games besides the most epic moments, but they were double teaming him after the fourth one. I've never seen double teams that early in an All-Star game. Under 4 minutes in, Tyrese Haliburton drawing doubles from the Western Conference defense. The most defensive strategy we saw all night was because Tyrese Haliburton hit 4 threes in a row, and it didn't do anything because on the next possession, he hit another three. 34 feet was the listing from the NBA. On that fifth one, he had 15 points in the blink of an eye. It was unbelievable. He missed the sixth one and then didn't shoot again for 18 minutes of game time. This is something really interesting about this game. We could talk about the defense and the context of the game later. Because it was such little defense and such little fouling, he'd go to the scores table and just be sitting there for like 4 minutes. And that's not unique to Tyrese Haliburton. That was unique to everybody, but it made it a lot of situations like that where guys, when you'd come in, you'd be in for a while. And even when you were supposed to come out, you were in for a while. But Haliburton's electric start was so cool. And it was like the story of the game for him. And can he ride that into the MVP, right? He goes to the bench. He's sitting with Giannis. He's sitting with Trae Young. He was talking to Scotty Barnes quite a bit. I mean, he's just soaking it up, right? And coming back in, didn't shoot again for the second half until right at the end when he gets to 18 points at halftime. And so he's right in the MVP thick of it. And Damian Lillard shows up. Whew. Damian Lillard was special in this game. He was the main competitor for MVP for Haliburton. I'm not even going to pull up the halftime box score. That'd be ridiculous. But I believe Dame was slightly ahead of Haliburton statistically at halftime. In fact, I did pull it up because I'm making sure I get all this right. So at halftime, Dame was slightly ahead on the scoreboard, and many thought he had 22 points and 3 assists, while Haliburton had 18 points at the time. So many were thinking Haliburton could get MVP, but then Lillard, one of his shots was like from half court, and he was being entertaining, and him and Giannis were playing well off of each other. So as the game continued, Lillard kept rolling, and Haliburton was being Tyrese Haliburton. He was passing a little more. He tried an elbow pass to Lillard in transition. For those who don't know the lore of the elbow pass, Jason Williams in the 2000 rookie sophomore game was running in transition and dropped the ball behind his back and then slapped it with his opposite elbow behind him to a big man cutting down the floor, who then tried to dunk and I believe got fouled. And so Haliburton in transition, and he was like really sizing up the transition opportunity, like looking at the guy running to the rim, looking at Dame, looking at the defender. And then he tried the elbow pass, and it was really inaccurate. And Dame missed the shot, which ruined the highlight. But, that's the kind of stuff Haliburton was doing. He wasn't always looking to score. And Dame wasn't only looking to score, but he definitely shot it way more than Haliburton did. So he was running away with the point totals. Cat was catching up. Karl-Anthony Towns finished with 50 points. 50 points. He did not win MVP because his team lost. And Jaylen Brown ended up scoring quite a bit as well. He reached 36, but it was really between quality of play and theatrical entertainment, Haliburton and Lillard for MVP. In the second half and down the stretch, Lillard hit a second half court shot. And it was a totally different one than the first one. He was more exhausted, so had more arc. He couldn't get his legs into it, drilled it. And so late in the game, Dame had 39 points and Haliburton had 24, right? And they both had 6 assists, I think, at the time. So it felt like it was over. And then Haliburton in the last 90 seconds scored 8 points, 2 threes and a dunk. And then it became a thing again. Like, okay, in his home city, so there's like a little more on him. He had 32 points for the East team, which was the third most on the team and the fourth most in the game. He had 7 rebounds, which was tied for the third most on the East team. A couple West guys beat that as well. And 6 assists, which was the second most on the East team. Only Trae Young had more, and like the 5th most in the game. Amazing night for Haliburton. Scoring, passing, rebounding, going for the highlights, being entertaining. But Dame had the half-court shots and more points. So before we get to the MVP discussion, credit to Tyrese Haliburton, right? Second, he had 18 points last year. Second straight year, he's looked really good in the All-Star game. Lighten it up from a scoring perspective. He is like the perfect style of player for these games because he can shoot and pass, right? And so in a game where there's just all about the highlights, there's no defense played, he's perfect. He did a great job of seizing the moment. And he said his hamstring was good. He didn't really have a minutes restriction. He played 27 minutes in this game, despite getting stuck at the score table a few times. Only Dame played more on the East team. Shea played more for the West team, and Karl Towns played more for the West team. So in the end, 12-person panel for MVP, 9 voters, and 3 fan votes. And that was the separator. It was 7-5 was the final vote tally, 5-4 in favor of Dame for media, and then 2-1 in the fan votes. So 1 vote flipping, and it would have been a tie, a co-MVP for Haliburton. Dame wins it. A lot of people unhappy with that, mostly because most of my followers on the internet are Pacers people who would like to see their Pacers player win, and I respect that. But the actual logical argument to it was, well, Dame took 11 more shots and only scored 7 more points, and Haliburton had more rebounds, the same number of assists, blah, blah, blah. Okay. I mean, it may be so. And in the home city, I would have accepted that argument. I also think, too, though, if you were wanting, I want to ask Ty this, because he went ham at the end of the game with those points, right? With 8 points laid and, clearly something to it. He wasn't passing in that stretch. Like, if he wanted MVP in that moment, and because I want to ask him that, because to win All-Star MVP, you have to basically be the best offensive player, best scorer on the winning team. Is there an element of like, does he wish he could have been less selfish at times? Does he wish he could have shot closer to the 26 times Damian Lillard did? Did he even care about winning MVP in the All-Star game? I mean, he didn't win his first All-Star game. Now he's 1-1 in the All-Star game. I don't know. People were not happy that Tyrese Haliburton did not win. I think a coin flip was a good way to describe it. So I think the voting being that close is very reflective of what happened in the game, but I think it would have been the prom king winning would have been just and fair, although Dame Lillard did earn it. And the half-court shots Dame hits are just insane. Like, it's just so ridiculous how he's able to do it. He won the 3-point contest as well for good reason. But Haliburton, a great night for him, right? To play in the All-Star game in your hometown with all those people there, that's a lot of pressure. And like he could have just, I mean, everybody phones it in the All-Star game, but he could have just passed it and gone for some lobs and some flashy passes and stuff. But he was gunning. He was being entertaining. He had 32 points. I mean, that's hard to do. Even in an All-Star game, that's hard to do. Not everybody did it who played. And so credit to him. Good ambassador for the city. Good performance. And yet, a lot of people not happy with the All-Star game. Plus, many more tidbits from my time watching, observing at All-Star Weekend, from the Skills Challenge, the G League Next Up game, Rising Stars, so much more to talk about here, including Indy hosting everything. But before we talk about any of that, we're going to talk about Grammarly. There's a lot of different work things you do that involve communication, sending messages, reports, brainstorming ideas. You communicate with yourself, emails, whatever. No matter what kind of work you do, you got to communicate, and how you do it is key. And all those emails, reports, presentations are equally important to the collaboration you need to get things done. Grammarly is your AI writing partner to help you communicate more effectively and efficiently so you can make a bigger impact at work. I am a Grammarly user myself. It makes me more confident in my writing and my notes because it copy edits very well. It makes me way more efficient. It makes my day, it impacts my day every single day. 96% of Grammarly users report that Grammarly helps them craft more impactful writing. It works across 500,000 apps and websites. By understanding your writing in context, Grammarly provides relevant, personalized suggestions. You'll save time with one click. 93 professionals report that it helps them get more work done. And you could be next. Make a bigger impact at work with Grammarly. Sign up for free at Grammarly.com/podcast. That's GRAMMARLY.com/podcast. Easier said, done. Grammarly. Go check it out yourself. And we are back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making us your first listen today and every single day. For your second listen, okay, let's see. Every team in the NBA was basically represented at All-Star Weekend. I'm not sure if every team was, but most teams had somebody there. Dame was the probably individual winner, as we just talked about with the award. He had a wonderful weekend, winning the game with Team East, winning MVP in the All-Star game, winning the three-point contest. I would say that your second listen should be Locked On Blazers to hear about Dame. Wow, Dame doesn't play for the Blazers anymore. I don't want to tell you guys what time it is. It's very late. Check out Locked On Bucks to hear about Dame seizing his moment against in the midst of a crummy season. The game itself, the All-Star game itself, a lot of complaints about the quality of the game. And I would answer those complaints first with, what did you expect? And that's a mean response, because people expect or want it to be fun and interesting like it used to be. Guys used to care. Guys used to defend. There used to be passion, and there's not anymore. And that, yes, that sucks. Like, the fact that it's not as competitive as it used to be totally sucks. 211 points for the winning team is comical. It was very funny to see Adam Silver after the game say 200 points. I'm paraphrasing, but he said like 211 points, the most ever. Well, congratulations. Like, the longest, most obviously like jaded pause I've ever heard. And Adam Silver said he expected a more competitive game the day before at his own press conference. So here's what I'll say. I think that the All-Star game will never be competitive again unless they put massive incentives on it or completely change the format, because as it is now, with very little benefit to winning, people still watch, people are still entertained. They still want to see their favorite players, and people tune in enough that, it's like there's no benefit to trying for the players, because they are what their goals are in the current landscape of the NBA, between money and championships and just personal happiness. There is no incentive to try in the All-Star game. And like, that was kind of the point Tyrese Haliburton made late last month when he was asked about it, is like, I've got to, especially because he was being asked about it for perfect context the same day he practiced for the first time after missing 10 of 11 games. And there's the new 65 game rule. So he's like, why would I play it, or give myself, open up, why would we go all out, basically, with the new 65 game rule and all this stuff? And the reason is that you want to make an entertaining game for your fans, and the TV ratings of that game matter. And it's a massive product for the world, right? The thing about All-Star now that I think is interesting when it comes to what it means for the NBA is the football now has an extra week, right? And they do a lot of stuff that, to put themselves in front of fans, even on what traditionally were NBA dominated timeframes. The Christmas, certain nights of the week. Well, now with the 17th week of the NFL season, the Super Bowl is back a week, and all this other stuff is on a different timeline. So this year I noticed it because the trade deadline for the NBA was before the Super Bowl. And I was like, oh, that's strange. Usually Super Bowl ends, you come out, and then there's a lot of focus on the NBA because of the trade deadline. So that meant the weekend after the Super Bowl was the All-Star game. So for a lot of fans who weren't, keeping up with the trade deadline because the Super Bowl or whatever, they come out of football, and this is the thing. All-Star weekend is the first thing they see, and it's just this crummy All-Star game, right? That has to be a thing that matters to the NBA. They need people to care about this game. It's a global, massive game. So I get the players not wanting to try, and I get the NBA wanting people to try, and I understand people hating it. I enjoy everything that is basketball related. I still enjoy it because it's basically just like 48 minutes of guys going for highlights. If you want it to be a competitive game, you're not going to enjoy it. And it used to be that. And I wasn't locked into All-Star Weekend, never really have been growing up. So I never had an affinity for those guys trying games. But my take on it is, if they want guys to try, they have to incentivize them to try. And the reason that's relevant is because they get paid to play for their team during the season, right? Their incentive to try is they're playing for that team and getting paid to do so. Their incentive to try is that's the team that can win something and have a legacy defining moment. You've already been named an all-star when you're in the game. The legacy part's already been done, right? And you don't get paid. I mean, you can get paid more in terms of popularity and marketing in theory, but you don't get paid for that game, right? It's just not, it doesn't align with the goals of the players as much as maybe it used to. And the pride element has just been totally gone because players move around so much. That's at least my take on that. So to make the game matter, they have to make incentives, whether that's a bunch of cash for everybody. We saw in the in-season tournament, players seemed to respond to cash incentives, right? They were trying in that game. And the difference is that was also regular season games, right? But people tried in the extra in that game, in that championship game, Pacers were in it, right? Maybe it's changing the format so it's like countries or something like that. I don't know. Like I thought about USA versus World as a way to incentivize guys to try. I don't know. There's lots of ways you could do it, but that the product is certainly in need of a tweak in the NBA. 211 points is comical, right? And that's just how it is and how it's going to be. But that is my take on the All-Star game. And I had a good time, but I was also there. And so every commercial break is a performance. It's something cool and interesting to see. Other stuff that was fun from All-Star Weekend. And by the way, if you want some behind-the-scenes content, Locked On Pacers YouTube channel, where you can watch videos of these podcasts, has a lot of the footage of press conferences uploaded straight there. You can hear from Ben Mathurin, Myles Turner, Oscar Tshiebwe, Tyrese Haliburton a few times. You can see Haliburton's introduction at the All-Star game. I might be missing something, but those are the guys I was able to actually film it and get it up there, which was really cool that I had that opportunity. So listeners there have already seen those, but if you want to, there's a way to do it. And there's one from Paul George because I wouldn't have uploaded it. He doesn't play for the Pacers, but he talked a lot about Indy and the Pacers in general. So threw that one up. Anyway, skills challenge was sweet. Pacers won it. Team Pacers, as they were called. Clever name. But the host city, gets a team. And the skills challenge was totally new. There was 3 rounds, a relay round and a shooting round and a passing round. And the Pacers were funny because they won. I spoiler, but it's been 2 days. I'm assuming most people know by now. They won, and they were joking before, like, yeah, our chemistry is going to help us in this. And they did really well in the first round, which is a relay round. But the relay round's all individuals, and they won that one because Myles Turner made both of his shots right away, and he was weaving, and his pass was good and all that. And their only blemish was Ben Mathurin missing his floater. But then everybody else they did so well that Tyrese Haliburton was able to give himself a self-pass off the backboard alley-oop to seal it instead of just an easy layup. And I saw him. I was on the LED court before when they were doing a walkthrough and practicing, and I could see Ty like looking up at the backboard and thinking about doing that. I said to him, you're not going to throw off the backboard yourself, are you? He said, if we're up by enough in time, I will. And they were dominating, so he did it. The second one was all passing. They're a good passing team. They won that in a dramatic tiebreaker. Both teams cheated. A lot of grabbing 2 balls at once. But then the final round was shooting, except it's not just guys shooting. It's shoot, and then one guy shoots, one guy rebounds, one guy passes to the next shooter, and then they kind of rotate through those stations. That one does require chemistry, and that's the one they lost. All the rest just were, individual skills and feats. But they won the tiebreaker. Tyrese Haliburton hit a half-court shot, and they won. And he's now retired from the skills contest. But it was really interesting that that they won because of individual brilliance. They all did very well, despite being the closest knit group by far of those teams. And it was fun to see Haliburton. They dominated so much that Haliburton said, "I'm only doing this if we're dominating." And then they were up by so much in the first round that he got to do it. It was really cool. And it was funny because that was actually noteworthy for Tyrese Haliburton, because he said after the All-Star game that his hamstring, his leg felt good after playing 27 minutes. And he said, even after dunking off one leg yesterday, right? So that you could tell, like, if that's something he has to think about, like certain motions, that matters. And he was able to do it in that setting and put on a show for the crowd. So that was really cool. Next up game, Rising Stars. Plenty more still to talk about from All-Star Weekend, including Indy hosting. It was a great time. Before we close out today's show, though, got to talk to you guys about Nissan. Are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little further? Ever wonder what adventure could be around the corner? Well, our friends at Nissan have a lineup of SUVs with the capabilities to take your adventure to the next level. For example, the 2024 Nissan Rogue is perfect for city drives and great escapes. Its class exclusive Google built-in is your always updating assistant to call in for almost anything. Gone are the days of connecting your phone. Google Assistant, Google Maps, and Google Play Store are built right into the 12.3-inch HD touchscreen information system. 2024 Rogue is perfect midsize crossover for your next adventure. And that doesn't even stop there. The Nissan Pathfinder has room for up to 8 in expansive cargo capacity, plus advanced available 4x4 capabilities with 284 horsepower and up to 6,000 pounds of towing. When adventure calls, the Pathfinder is there to answer. Take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada to go find your next big adventure. Shop nissanusa.com. And we are back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making us your first listen today and every single day. For your second listen, Locked On NBA is the way to go, covering all the events from All-Star. I was on there for one segment talking Pacers, talking Indy, talking Skills Challenge and Saturday night and all that. And Nick Angstad did the Sunday recap, and he was sitting right next to me for the whole All-Star game. So I trust his takes very much. Also, Saturday night, Tyrese Haliburton did the three-point contest. This is the thing that I think people should have the biggest beef with of all weekend, is that top 3 from the first round of the three-point contest go to the second round, and they had a 4-way tie for first at 26. Just have all 4 guys go to the finals. That would be faster than doing what they did and making the tiebreaker 32nd round of the same thing as the first round, and then having the finals with the 3, but they kind of want it to be longer. I get that. It felt silly. Ty did terrible in the tiebreaker, and he was out. He's really good at the first round of these three-point contests. He made the finals last year, and he was the worst in the second round last year as well. So that's something for him to get over at some point. He said he'll probably do it again until he wins next year in Oakland, and that's where Dame's from, and Dame won again. So I don't have a ton of interesting insight into the three-point contest. I have a take, though. I'm not a take guy usually, but I have a take. I think the three-point contest is my favorite All-Star event, and my take is it has the highest floor of the events. It's always fun. It's not always the most fun. A great dunk contest is better than most three-point shootouts, but most years the three-point contest is better than the dunk contest. The Steph Sabrina thing did not include any Pacers, so I won't dive into it too much here. It was awesome, though. I cover both leagues, so to see them both have phenomenal shooting outings was just brilliant. And the fact that they had the 2 best scores of the night. Sabrina tied the best nights from the men's three-point contest with her 26, and then Steph, of course, best shooter on the planet, 29 immediately after. My take before that was whoever goes second is going to win. Steph went second, and he won. And they both just put up epic scores, which made it all the better. And the dunk contest stunk. Mac McClung deserved to win. No one else did anything particular noteworthy, and the Pacers weren't in it, so I have nothing to add. You might have missed this event on Sunday. The G League Next Up game won't go too long here, but Oscar Tshiebwe, Isaiah Wong, and Kyle Mangus, Indiana native from Warsaw, who went to Indiana Wesleyan, is on the Mad Ants. They all participated. Tshiebwe's team won. Tshiebwe was cleaning up rebounds, and Isaiah Wong and him were talking some smack before the game. They played against each other in the first round. It was in the convention center, so a lot of fans who were there for the crossover event got to see the G League Next Up games. They were really quick. They were first to 30 in these convention center games. And the MVP of the Next Up game, how about Trevelin Queen, former Pacer from last year on a two-way deal. But Tshiebwe looked good in those. He looked good in everything he did, man. He did good in Rising Stars and that, which was cool. I understand if people didn't realize that one was even happening. And then the other event, the last one from the weekend, Ben Mathurin and Tshiebwe in Rising Stars. And Ben Mathurin had the most Bennedict Mathurin game ever in the first game of Rising Stars. Starting slow, some misses, a turnover, right? Not good. He even airballed the dunk. I don't remember exactly when that was. But man, was he great when he got going. And he finished 7 for 13 with 18 points in the first game. He got into it with Jaden Ivey telling him, "You can't guard me," which was crazy. I didn't hear this part, but apparently it was like betting money on the free throws he had that could have clinched the first game and then missed both of them and then hit the game-winning shot like 2 possessions later anyway for his team to win. He was very Ben Mathurin in that way. Lots of scoring, not as much passing, but his team won. Again, he's undefeated 2-0 in the Rising Stars contest. And Tshiebwe's team upset Wembanyama's team, which was funny in that first game. I say funny because of those 2 player names I used, just because I asked Tshiebwe about going against Wembanyama after the game, and he compared it to him going against middle schoolers, right? He called it not fair. But yeah, Mathurin was extremely Ben Mathurin in those events, and he won MVP, the winner. Well earned. His 18-point game was far and away the most that anybody scored in that. So that was the big events of the All-Star night. I saw like 2 seconds of the celebrity game, and again, no Pacers in that one. Asia Wilson was wearing a Jermaine O'Neal jersey, if that counts as a Pacer thing. So much from All-Star Weekend. There was so much to do at the convention center, even if you weren't going to any of the events. Downtown was buzzing. It would have been perfect if it didn't snow the first day, which made it colder and it was really windy. But I hope people got to go down and experience it because, you never know when All-Star is going to be in your city again. Like I live here, right? Like it was really cool to see. It's been 39 years since it was last year. If this was when it was supposed to be, Derek and I were talking about this on last Friday's show, it would have been 36 years. Still a long time, right? You never know when the next time will be, and they don't repeat on purpose, but like they go to the bigger markets more often, right? And so it was just cool to see it all in Indy and cool to see how Indy could pull off an event like this. And Herb Simon on the floor, they do this ceremony every year where, a team governor or owner or whatever passes off a ceremonial ball to the new team that's hosting All-Star. So last year in Utah, Ryan Smith gave Herb Simon the ball. And this year, Herb Simon passed it off to Joe Lacob with the Warriors on the court in the fourth quarter. But he joked at the time, he said, hopefully we host this again in under 40 years. So perhaps it will be before the 2060s when it's back in Indy. But extremely cool to be a part of it and see it all. I went to a lot of really sweet stuff. Like I went to a pop-up deli in the mall that they had. The NBA Players Association was putting on. Obi Toppin was there. And I went to take pictures because Obi went and I wanted to take pictures for a story. And Larry Markkinen was there. So, like, that's just kind of what it was. Like, players are everywhere. There's events all the time. I got to talk to Vince Carter. Like, he was just roaming around. There's also all sorts of stuff to do. I think everybody who came downtown had a really good time besides the people who had to wait a very long time to get into crossover one day. I can't remember which one it was, but I heard the lines were really long. But it was really cool to see it all in Indy. It was fun to see Gainbridge packed for that event and the stadium just completely redone for a marquee NBA night. It was really sweet to see Lucas Oil for Saturday and the innovative LED courts. I mean, I really liked those. I don't know how exactly they came through on TV. I did watch some of it back, but they were really great in person and weren't too distracting and added to the fun of the events and everything in general. I just thought was very well done. If it didn't snow, it would have been even more perfect for Indy. But I really enjoyed it, and I hope that if you listen to this and you were able to, you got some time down there to just explore and see everything they set up and all the activities you could do outside and in and around Georgia Street and popped into the Bicentennial Unity Plaza and all that kind of stuff. It was great for the city. Pacers won a lot of stuff. Actually, they had a winner Friday night and Saturday and Sunday. Both of their guys won. And if Haliburton won the 3-point contest, everybody who participated in a specific event, the Pacers would have had a winner. They would have had losers and stuff that they crossed over in, but They almost clean swept. So really fun weekend. We'll talk more All-Star and more specifically Tyrese Haliburton tomorrow with a guest. The weekend he just had certainly is going to matter quite a bit for his sort of legacy. And also, if you want to read a lot of stuff, I have a story up from talking to Obi Toppin one-on-one this weekend. And then I was at the Reggie Miller press conference where he talked about the Pacers in Indy. And then I have stories coming out with some other talks. I haven't really spoiled this anywhere yet. I got to go one-on-one with Ron Artest. And I talked with Vince Carter about a Pacers thing. And I promise that one will be extremely cool. So a lot more fun stuff coming for me. And the season will resume very soon, Thursday. So we'll jump right back in when the time has come. We'll do a mailbag later this week too. So tons of good stuff coming here on the Locked On Pacers podcast. And tons of good stuff was done this weekend at NBA All-Star Weekend. If you made it this far, I apologize. I didn't have a lot of time to edit this episode because it's so late and I need to go to bed. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you so much for listening and being a part of my All-Star Weekend. If I saw you there, back tomorrow talking Tyrese Haliburton, more All-Star, Indy on the map, Tyrese Haliburton on the map, and plenty more. Thank y'all for listening. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you soon.